Kia ora and welcome to the Trends Property Inside series. I'm your host, Andrew Johnson, and on this episode, we delve into the art and science of kitchen design, exploring how thoughtful planning and quality cabinetry can transform your living space. Joining me is Ross Longney from Poggenpohl Studio Auckland, a name synonymous with high-end kitchen solutions and innovative design. So Ross, thank you very much for taking some time to sit down and have a chat with me today.
Welcome.
Now, you have been in the industry of cabinetry and storage solutions for an incredibly long time, since the 80s. And so I wanted a chance to sort of chat with you about what you do with Poggenpohl and the incredible systems of the company, and also just get some information and advice about what people should consider when it comes to their cabinetry planning and storage ideas. So to give a bit of context, can you just talk to us a little bit about Poggenpohl's history and it arriving here in New Zealand?
Yeah, okay, well, we have to bear in mind that Poggenpohl, Germany, has been manufacturing kitchens for 130 years plus.
Wow.
It's the oldest kitchen manufacturer in Germany. And the market was opened up for us in New Zealand in the mid-80s when they took off the controls of importing. And we went to Germany and established contact with Poggenpohl at that stage. And so for 40 years, we've been importing beautiful kitchens from them. They've changed a lot over those years, but they've always been in the vanguard of design and technology in kitchen.
And their design is all about the classic and the longevity, like you say. What do you think it is about Poggenpohl that has allowed them to sustain so long and create such a wonderful brand?
The designs are practical, they're solution-driven, and the product that the company supplies, I liken it to a length of chain, and if you've got one weak link in a chain, then it's a failure. And so Poggenpohl strives to have every step of the way sound, reasonable, not gold-plated necessarily, but practical and reasonable and reliable. And we are still in touch with owners of kitchens that we installed nearly 40 years ago, and the kitchens sometimes need a little bit of a tweak and a tune, and some of those kitchens are still being used daily by the original owners in some cases.
And thinking about that chain, that link description you give, you've got a really strong connection right back to the factory, don't you? Even though you're here in Auckland in New Zealand, you can have that direct connection in terms of reaching back to the original source.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the people that we deal with, the order processors, have been with Poggenpohl for 40 years. So we're still dealing with the same people. One of the girls was a teenager when we started, and she just turned 61 the other day, and then she's daily communication with us. So it's an amazing story, yeah.
And what does that give you in terms of localizing the system, that direct connection back to the factory, back to the source? Is that a benefit for you to be able to sort of tailor specifically for Kiwi kitchens and homes?
Yeah, each kitchen is unique and it's designed for the individual, just like every individual is unique, every kitchen is unique, and the designs are tailor-made for that client and then presented to Poggenpohl, and they will manufacture it to those specifications. We work within guidelines because that's a cost-effective way of manufacturing kitchens, but almost everything is possible, Andrew. Yeah.
So talking about that process from the beginning, and someone turns up at the Auckland studio and says, I need to get my kitchen sorted. What does the process look like for people when they first come in to see you?
It's easy for a client or a prospect to work with someone that they like and that they trust and that they recognise as someone that can do something for them. So that's your first step, if you like, and that's the same with any design or selling process. It's not rocket science. But if you can establish a nice rapport with the customer, and then it's two ears and one mouth. You really have to ask simple questions and listen to what the answers are, and then tailor your proposal to their requirements. And that's a simple way of doing it, really.
Is there any kind of research or preparation people should do before they come and see you to make the process any easier?
Yeah, in former days, people used to rip pages out of Trends magazines and other magazines and bring, a whole folder of things in. These are the things I've seen and that I like. Now that's all done digitally, and they can pull it down and create a folder of images that represent their requirements, and that's made it interesting and streamlines it. Probably makes it a bit more bulky because they can have 1,000 images, but it's fun. That's a fun part of the way things have changed. Yeah.
And are there things they should consider before they come to see you, thinking about the workflow, their lifestyle, their family setup? What's useful? Are there common questions that you often have to ask people for them to think about when they come in to start the process?
We always ask them about their family, about whether they like cooking or whether the kitchen is just for show. Just try and understand where they're coming from. In terms of workflow, that's something people don't necessarily get, if you like, and that's the responsibility of the designer to make sure that they don't do a kitchen where if two people are in there, they're falling over each other all the time. So that's a designer responsibility. But understand what the family situation. We get multi-generational houses now, and that's important. There might be two areas, or even many houses now have two whole kitchens in them.
Right.
So you just work your way through that, and then you have a nice proposal that hopefully matches what they want. But once you've got a proposal, people find it difficult to think about their kitchen if they've got a blank sheet of paper in front of them. But if you've got a proposal for them, then they can say, oh, gosh, I'd never thought of that, or, oh, gosh, I really like that, or this bit here, what about if we move that over there because I do it this way? It's much easier to work off something, an initial proposal, than it is off a blank sheet.
Right, so in terms of you'll present a concept type stuff before you go right through into the actual production diagrams. Is that discovery process where people do find, actually, we didn't even consider that was an option? So in terms of when they're looking for their requirements, they may not know what they don't know. So is there a concept process you'll go through with them and actually work that out before you go into the formal drawings?
We like to do that, yeah. I mean, because the formal drawings, which, like I've got an example here, this is the amount of paper that's produced. This is for one job, two kitchens for one site, but this is the final documentation, which tells the builder, the gas fitter, the electrician, the plumber, everybody what is required before the kitchen clicks into place when it arrives at the end of the building process. So we don't do that willy-nilly. You have to have a commitment from the client to go to that stage. But at the stage of doing concepts and maybe some plans and perspectives, that's early stage, and that's what people will either like or alter to how they like it.
And that kind of level of detail, is that what people should expect from any cabinet maker?
That's what any qualified kitchen designer will and should present to the client ultimately. Whether it's an imported kitchen or a New Zealand-made kitchen, that's what the builder needs, and the plumber needs, and the electrician needs to be able to set things up correctly for the kitchen's arrival. Yeah.
So over the last sort of 40 years, how have you seen the New Zealand kitchen evolve? What have been some of the ways that Kiwis have changed the way they view or live and work inside the kitchen?
It's really comes back to, it's two questions there. One, in terms of the technology in the kitchen, it comes back to the importation of good drawer systems, good hinges, good storage systems, which now are imported from usually Italy or Germany, but now increasingly from China, and that's changed. The designs of the kitchens, in terms of the ergonomics of the kitchen, it's pretty much the same as it was from the Middle Ages. If people haven't changed significantly, but the technology of the systems in the kitchen and the technology of the appliances and the bench tops and the door fronts and handles, all that has changed a lot over the 40 years that I've been involved.
I know from personal experience of going through open homes, one of the key things you often do is you're opening and closing the drawers or the cupboards. And if they slam and there's kind of a loud echo versus a soft close, or there's kind of the technology behind the drawers, it can kind of often give an impression that the home is of a higher value. Do you see that the installation of good cabinetry, good systems actually adds to the value of a property?
Oh, tremendously. And that's where Poggenpohl and other branded kitchens differentiate themselves from the cabinet makers' kitchen, because it is branded. And so when you're in the real estate market, if you're advertising your house with a branded kitchen like ours, but like others, the prospect for the purchase of the house infers from that branding that the rest of the house is not manufactured, but built to that height, to that sort of standard. And that's a really positive thing from a real estate point of view.
And have the systems changed the workflow in terms of there's a traditional sort of work triangle in a kitchen? Are those still relatively common in the way people interact with their cabinetry in a general triangle workflow sort of way?
As kitchens have changed, a lot of kitchens have become a simple galley with an island or galley. The work triangle changes a little bit, and so I personally think of the workflow as a circular motion. So you go from storage to ovens to cooktops to workspace to then sinks, dishwashers, cutlery drawers. And if you've got a circular sort of flow in your kitchen, whether that circle then comes round onto an island or onto a galley or into a U-shape or even a G-shape. We don't do many G-shaped kitchens nowadays, but in the 70s and 80s they were quite common, when the kitchen wasn't an open space where it was its own room. If you've got some sort of circular flow within the kitchen, you know instinctively that the kitchen is going to work in reality for a client. So it's I think of it as work circle rather than work triangle.
And you're touching on some of those technology or pieces that make up the actual system. So for those people who don't deal with this every day, what are some of the things they could look for, some of the solutions in terms of the technology behind the drawer systems, the hinges, that are sort of innovative that might actually improve, their lifestyle and the value of the kitchen?
Soft closing drawers have been around for about over 20 years now. Soft closing hinges have been around for 10 years. But it's also in the design, because if we look at a kitchen maybe designed in the 50s or 60s, most of the cabinets underneath the benchtop were cupboards, slamming cupboards. But now when we design kitchen, nothing under the benchtop is a cupboard. Maybe under the sink sometimes, but everything is drawers, and sometimes called deep drawers, but we call them pull-outs, which is a higher drawer. Everything under the benchtop is of that type, so it all comes out. So the access to things that you have stored is much, much, much better than it ever was before.
Yeah, and unfortunately there's some of those things that you don't think about. A home that we've recently moved into, the dishwasher is right next to a corner cabinet. So the fold-out corner cabinet, you can't open it when the dishwasher's opening, and also it's a dishwasher that self-opens when the cycle's finished. So constantly having to negotiate what are you doing with your dishwasher or getting into the corner cupboard, let alone actually getting to the back of that cupboard.
Yeah.
So there's systems in the corner systems as well, right, that can actually rotate or carousel inside those kind of deeper spaces.
Yeah, and that gives you access to everything in the corner. And that situation that you were confronted with in your kitchen is sorry, Andrew, it's inadequate design or inadequate thought gone into the design, because that should never really happen. Yeah. And the corner systems that rotate or that come out as one that they call the Le Mans corner, because the shape of it when it comes out is like a kidney stone, but it's also like the Le Mans racetrack.
Right.
And that's generically called Le Mans. And that totally comes out, so you can see everything that you have right to the back corner of that cupboard. And that's important, especially the Germans are used to much smaller kitchen spaces than ours. So they have really refined the storage capacity of a kitchen. So they can have quite a small kitchen with super storage, and people live quite comfortably with it. We tend to have bigger kitchen, but we still use those easy accessible solutions.
Are there any sort of hidden areas that are quite common that people don't even think to explore in their kitchen? You talk about not putting in cupboards under the bench and bits and pieces, but like the vertical height of the space, or are people using their vertical height in different ways?
Actually, more now. We're finding, like in, let's say, since 2020, the kitchens are becoming a lot taller. 3 metre high kitchens are quite common now, and so you've got storage going right to, and a lot of kitchens going right to the ceiling, which it presents a challenge in terms of installation, because installation is another really critical part of the process. Can come back to that, but so tall kitchens are going, and we have there are small ladders that tuck in under the toe kick that you can draw out to give you height to get to those things, because they are some of the covers are, you wouldn't want to go up there every day, put it that way.
Yeah. And does the different cabinet systems, and like with Poggenpohl, for example, affect appliance choice or what you can use around the cabinets?
No, it's more the other way around, actually. One of the key things that we ask people to think about before they come to a presentation is they might come with all the images of what they like, but we also ask them if they can give some thought to not necessarily the brands, whether it be Gaggenau or Neff or Fisher and Paykel or any other appliances. We ask them to think about what they want, whether they want a double oven, a steam oven, a combi oven, whether they want gas or electric, or how big a hob. So because it's the appliances that, to a degree, drive the design of the kitchen, or the selection of cabinets within the kitchen very much. You can have 760 wide ovens, 760 millimetre wide ovens, or 60 centimetres. You can have 91 centimetre fridges, or you can have 60 centimetre fridges,
And in terms of all the different options that you get to play with and explore, putting these amazing jigsaw puzzles together, is there one innovation or one kind of product or system that you think's the coolest or the greatest innovation that's out there at the moment?
The most interesting to me innovation is induction hobs, where you actually see no sheet of glass, but they actually heat through the porcelain benchtops. And so you just have a platform like this. There'd be a small hole with an LED just to show you where you centre your pot, and then you put your pot straight on the benchtop, turn the controls, and you heat it through the thing. And that's really stunning, amazing to see, and to even think that we could have had that 20 years ago. It's just amazing. That's a lovely thing. And refrigeration has moved a long way too, with ice making in particular. Much better refrigeration, which allows food like vegetables can sit. A lettuce can sit in a really good fridge for a month and still be in perfect condition.
One of the benefits of you having access to each of the factory means that me here in Auckland and in New Zealand, I can come and see you and actually figure out what's happening in the future. So you've got a pretty good connection back to the offices in Germany to see what's coming up. Is that how do you have conversations with them and catch up about that stuff?
Yeah, the innovations that they program into their production run on a 2-year cycle based around the Milan Furniture Fair. And everybody goes to Milan hoping to show something different from or differentiate themselves from every other kitchen company, because there's probably 40 or 50 of them at Milan. And that's the big event on a 2-year cycle. And so Milan has just been a month or so ago. So we are updated by Poggenpohl by a Teams meeting, and they go through what they call the novelties, and the new things that they're adding into their program. And so it's quite immediate because it's way different from how it used to be. You can actually speak with the product engineers, the product designers from the factory, and get a very personal presentation of what's coming up. So,
And for people when they're considering a project with their home, so some people are going to stay in their home for a little bit longer and possibly sell in the future. Some are getting their properties ready for sale, and others are looking to buy a property and put their mark on it and make their dream home a bit of a reality. And they're often caught with this idea of where to spend and invest in terms of where the money's going to go in terms of the end result. So, from your experience, how valuable is it to look at a proper cabinetry solution like Poggenpohl, where it's going to be something that not only adds value but lasts the test of time?
It's really important nowadays, much more than it ever was, because the kitchen is usually part of an open architecture situation. So one spends much more time in and around the kitchen than they used to when it was a small room out the back where Mum, predominantly in the former days, spent her time, but nobody else did. And so the kitchen becomes like a grand piece of furniture in an open space, and that is why the integration of appliances has become so strong over the years. Integrated fridges, integrated dishwashers, primarily integrated range hoods. So you don't see the kitchen as a kitchen like you would see at the back of a restaurant. It's nothing like that. It's like a beautiful piece of furniture, and some of the door styles and particularly the benchtops that people choose are amazing. Some of the stones and the man-made stones or the artificial stones are actually really incredible, and they show off the client's taste and selection and personality, if you like.
And I suppose, having you sit here, I'd need to kind of ask you a question about the last 40 years. When you've been looking at other homes, or even just walking around and having a general look at people's places, are there common mistakes that you see time and time again where people just haven't made the consideration when it's coming, looking at their cabinetry or their storage?
Probably not common mistakes, because there are a myriad of mistakes that one can see in a kitchen design, and that's also not fair, because that kitchen may have been designed by a very efficient and very effective and very talented kitchen designer, but for a particular client. And because I say it's not what I want, or you say I don't like that aspect, that person that originally owned that kitchen may just love that feature. So one should always be wary of criticising other people's work.
Definitely. But then it's okay to be selfish when you're designing something for yourself, because it is going to be something that suits your lifestyle, specific to your requirements.
Exactly. One can do what one likes. Yeah.
If you had a piece of advice you would give people who are going through this process, where should they start? Because it can be quite daunting, and a lot of information is being, fed to people. What should they do in terms of a good place to start with the process?
Yep. That's easy. Do some research, like we've talked about already, and then choose a competent, trained kitchen designer. I think the worst thing people can do is to try and do it themselves, because it's not. A good kitchen doesn't fall out of the sky. It's got to have a lot of thought and a lot of planning to make sure that it works. And I'd say do not do it yourself. Pay somebody to design it, even if that person is not directly connected to a product like Poggenpohl or a cabinet maker or to one of the other kitchen companies. Get it done properly. It's like you don't go to build a house without engaging an architect, without engaging a builder, unless you're very talented. And therefore, the kitchen is a mini piece of architecture and treat it as such. And one does spend a considerable amount of money, even on a small kitchen, if you've got the materials that you really like in it. Do it properly and do it so that it's going to last, as I say, can last 40 years.
And I think that's a barrier sometimes for people to think, well, we don't want to engage with another cost, but in fact, investing in that cost is going to save you much more money down the track, a lot of hassle. And with most good designed kitchens, they look so simple. It's because the actual functionality that's been considered so carefully by a talented designer means that it looks seamless and easy, but actually the thinking that's gone into it's been quite complex. So it's good to hear that you think people should take that time and investment into choosing the right person so they don't get those mistakes down the track.
Yeah. And the same goes for installation of the kitchen. It's quite a complex little project. And again, I say, don't try and do it yourself. You'll never get the result that you will get from using a really good installer. And they're not inexpensive either, but it's money well invested.
If I go to a cabinet maker in general, would they install the cabinets as well, or are they two separate?
Yeah, but think about a cabinet maker. The people who install the cabinets won't be the people that are putting the cabinets together in the factory. They will have specialist installers within their own, and they'll have a specialist designer, people that make it, and then people that install it, and they won't be the same people.
Right. And so I suppose having someone like yourself from that perspective of the cabinetry process to handhold along the way has got to be something that your clients must be happy about. What kind of feedback do you get from people? As you say, some of them have been years and years since they've been customers.
Yeah, we get people that come back many times, a few times, and we get people that we deal with their children, and even now, some of their grandchildren are buying kitchens from us, and we remember the kitchens that we did for their grandparents.
Well, that's a lovely place to sort of finish up our conversation, full circle on the chain links and all. For those people who might want to get in touch with you and have a chat about what they're doing, what's the best way they can do that?
There's a website they can go to, and we have a showroom on the Strand in Parnell. We've been in that same spot for over nearly 25 years now, and we like it there, and people know that we're there, and they're 77 the Strand, Parnell.
So let's give you a call, make an appointment, pop in?
Yeah, it's best to make an appointment because it's the designer or the person taking the contact has to allocate a degree of time. You can't do it in 5 minutes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to sit down and have a chat with me. I think there's some interesting insights to the approach of the cabinetry that people will find really useful, so I really appreciate it.
I still enjoy it, Andrew. Still enjoy it. Thanks for having me.
And thanks to you for spending some time with us. Don't forget, you can find all our episodes on our platform by visiting trendsproperty.com. Here you can browse ideas and inspiration, products, people and places offering solutions for you on your property journey. Remember, you can sign up and join the Trends Property community where you can connect, collect and collaborate with others, or take advantage of our educational guides and courses to help you take the right steps in the right direction. As always, thanks for listening. We hope to see you next time on the Trends Property Insights series, where we help you find your place, your way. Ka kite. Goodbye.